Hi guys, I'm with Billy Graziadie to talk about the second album of BILLYBIO, Leaders and Liars, which will be released on the 25th of March on AFM Records. So thanks Billy for having us.
Thank you for having me. Bonsoir.
Bonsoir. So first of all, how are you on the eve of this release and how do you feel?
Well, to be honest, it's great. It's a cathartic feeling to be an artist and have something that you worked so hard on creating to finally see the light of day. And I've been talking about it for so long, so to share it with my friends and family is awesome. But on the other side, you know, we've all dealt with COVID for 2 years. I had numerous tours canceled, but the most upsetting part, what's going on right now, is the war in Ukraine. And, you know, I wake up every day. I don't go to emails to see what's happening with BILLYBIO. I go to the news to see what's happening in the Ukraine. And that, you know, as a human, not as an American, not as a metal kid or a punk rocker or a hardcore kid, but as a human, that is what I'm first. And that occupies my feelings, my emotions. And like everybody, I think that a lot of people get sick of the news because it's so split between, you know, unvaccinated and vaccinated, left and right, conservative, Republican, liberal, vegan, meat eater. There's so much division that it's dividing and not uniting, and that's concerning. Now with the war, I posted my solidarity and shared my solidarity with my friends and family in Ukraine, and suddenly lost a lot of followers who were from Russia, because we have more fans. I have more fans in Russia than I do in Ukraine, just from population alone. But it's weird. I remember many times playing in Israel and having fans that were Muslim that disliked the fact that I was playing in Israel. But I don't play for governments, you know. I don't create music for governments. Like, first I create music for myself, my art, but I share it with people I consider family, and that family doesn't have borders, you know. I don't separate my son from my daughter. They're together in our home. I don't, and the governments and people in power and money, it separates us by borders. And the borders are trying to be erased, but the war between those ideals are what keeps us fighting amongst ourselves. And while we fight them, not to go, I don't want to start the interview off such a political note, but you asked me how I feel. So am I excited and proud and happy about Leaders and Liars coming out? Fuck yeah, 100%. It's been a long journey with the pandemic, and I finally get to share what I've had inside of me and kept inside of me for a few years.
Okay. And how would you describe the album in comparison with the first one?
I think I don't. That's your job. You're the journalist. But as a fan of music, the second record of every band that I ever loved, it always seemed to be more pure. Always seemed to be like the meat and potatoes of who they are. And it's like the first record, they have their whole life to make that first record. But the second record, you know, even with from Biohazard to Metallica, Slayer, so many bands that I love. I was just talking to Joey from Life of Agony the other day. There's so many bands. It's like you make the first release and then you go on tour and you travel around the world and you spend time together, living every day, and you become more pure, more refined, more I guess fermented is a better word, maybe. So that second record is more of a truer representation of who you are as an artist. And for me, this record, I love Feed the Fire. The first BILLYBIO release, I love a lot, and I'm very proud of it. Leaders and Liars is it's just a natural evolution, and I think a more purification of what I am, or not what I am, I guess who I am, you know?
Okay. I read in an interview that when you released the first album, you already had songs for the second one. So did you keep that songs, or 3 years after, have you composed all the songs and abandoned the first one and add new songs that reflect more your inspiration or your mood of the moment?
That's interesting that you bring that up, because it's true. But the way I work as an artist, I'm a creative. I constantly am creating, taking my ideas and putting them out, whether it's lyrics or melodies, piano, guitar, whatever. There's always something inside that's boiling, and I have to get that out. As a creative yourself too, you understand there's always something happening in that creative world. So it's true. When I was working on Feed the Fire, there was so many songs that didn't make it on the record that I was continually working on, and those songs grew. I kept adding to them, but there comes a point, Helen, where suddenly, for you can understand, I think as a journalist and maybe you're a musician, but we're all creatives in a sense. There comes a point where what you're creating writes itself, and these songs at one point kind of magnetize together, and suddenly it jumps off the paper and it says, I am Leaders and Liars, and this is what works as a creative expression from BILLYBIO. So if there comes a time when that happens and there's other songs that just aren't there yet, just aren't a fully representation of what I'm trying to express at that moment, then they end up maybe coming out later. There was a song on Feed the Fire, the title track. There's a version I released after the record came out of me playing that song. And I remember when I first started working on that song, I showed it to a couple of guys in Biohazard, but there's a version of me playing it in the studio with the guys, super rough version, but it's the raw foundation of what became that title track of that record. And on this song, on Leaders and Liars, the song I just released, the last single, a song called Blackout. The chorus of the song was something that I had a while back, and I remember playing the idea for my drummer, for Danny from Biohazard. He's like, "Wow, that's a really catchy chorus. That's cool." I'm like, "Yeah, it's not ready yet though. Sometimes you're creating something, but it's like cooking. It's almost there, but maybe it needs to cook a little bit longer. It needs a little bit more spice or a little bit more salt. And when it's ready, it makes itself, and it jumps out of the pot and says, okay, now it's time to eat." So Blackout, for example, it wasn't ready, and finally it became ready. There was a riff on the song Turn the Wounds, which is another single I released.
Yeah.
And that riff, the main slow riff of that song, I had played that for a long time, but the song eventually just came together, and it finally hit the perfect boiling point for Leaders and Liars.
Okay. In introduction, you talk about division, that the government tried to separate people, and can we separate leaders and liars?
I think anyone who asks to be a leader is not a leader. They're liars. They have an agenda. I think that the true leaders are the ones that stand next to you, the ones who don't ask for your vote, the ones who don't ask to be put above you. A leader is someone is a peer, someone, and the people who I trust the most are the artists of the world, because they speak the truth. They don't care about the popularity. They don't want to, they don't want to be the leaders. They more, I think leading from within is the best way. And the world would probably be a better place if there were artists leading us more, but they wouldn't be leading, because they would be more of like, arm in arm in solidarity, versus trying to separate, because that's all I see now. And the world has taken some, presented us with some heavy challenges. The minute we took off our masks, now we worry about the war in the Ukraine. I mentioned earlier that, I want to wake up, opening emails and working on the creative side of BILLYBIO. But I sadly wake up worrying about what's going on in the Ukraine and Eastern Europe. But that's our reality.
Yeah. Okay. On the album, the songs are still fast and furious with this hardcore energy, but there are 3 quieter moments, some with female voices. Can you tell us a bit more about this breath?
So life is not always filled with ups. It's not always filled with downs. It's the natural, the ebb and flow of the ocean. That's life. For my whole life, I've dealt with depression. And I think that as a creative, that is the fuel and the result of my creativity. And I've accepted it. The mirror that I put up for what I see as what's going on in the world, and that's my reflection and what I see. So I've always done that from, my years with Biohazard, from different piano interludes and intros, through my whole career. I want to kind of mimic what I see going on in the world around me. And it's not always fast and furious, and it's not always slow and depressing and dirgy and dark. There's moments on Leaders and Liars that songs like Our Scene or, One Life to Live or Looking Up, that are very optimistic. But I think spending a lot of my life in a dark place, I tortured myself from, having rough time as a child and coming up with some things that I thought were unique to me. And I was the only person that had to deal with those things. And as I grew older and sharing some of those ideas and some of those feelings, I realized that I wasn't alone. But my life changed significantly when I started to not just focus on the dark side of my feelings, and I started to appreciate more of the goodness in life. And my life became more positive. I started to see things. And then at that moment, I look back. I don't want to talk about myself so much, but I kind of look back at my past, and I realized even though I was living in a dark place and wrote about a lot of issues that were dark, there was always some silver lining. There was always something positive out of a dark issue. And I think that's always been an underlying theme with all my music, that is maybe it's survival. It's overcoming. Life is filled with challenges. We all have to deal with shit. And one of the things I didn't want to talk about, Helen, was I didn't want to talk about the pandemic. We all dealt with it. We all had to deal with losing friends. Most of us probably got the virus. Hopefully no, but it's something we don't need to talk about. We've all dealt with it. I want to share things that are personal to me, and if they resonate with somebody else, that's the important part. I don't care about, if I'm playing the A minor 7th chord perfect. I want to make sure that I'm conveying my message in an authentic and pure way, in a real way.
Okay. And there are beautiful people that go with you on the album. Is that a story of friends, of talent, both? And how did you choose to work with them?
I think that everything happens in life for a reason. So to say I didn't really choose the guys, you know, things just happen that way. Rob played on the first record, and Fred, so him and I have been friends for a long time and toured together with Suicidal Tendencies. And Robbie and I have been friends. He's from Exploited. I toured with them so many times in my life. Fred is the drummer of Power Flow, and him and I have been great friends. I produced his first band. And Dan from Death by Stereo, I've been friends with for a long time. So him and I have worked together a lot. Things just happen to work out the way they do. I consider it a blessing to know these guys and to play with them, but it's a great honor for me to play with people who appreciate and respect and like what I'm creating, and they give me that respect to let my vision stay pure, and they don't try to change anything because they know that I have it all kind of mapped out in my head. You know, I have that vision, and I try to keep that as pure as I can.
You talk about Turn the Wound, and you released the video of the single, whose image are sadly up to date. Can you tell us a bit more about this video and the songs?
So the video, along with the artwork, it's all one creative thing for me. It's all it's almost like my whole life is my art. You know, it's my music, the artwork behind the you know, Leaders and Liars. I spent a lot of time creating the ideas and the vision, the visuals behind it, to the videos. The first video was a song called One Life to Live. Probably one of the most untypical and unique videos that I ever created. The idea, I shot the video on my iPhone. It was just like this, one shot. And the idea I got of doing one camera shoot was from a movie that I liked when I was a kid called Goodfellas. It was a movie from New York about the mob in New York City called Goodfellas. And there was this one shot that it was one constant shot for like a minute or something like that. And in film, that's a long time. And I was like, this song is short. I want to capture a moment in time where the youth are celebrating life in the middle of a pandemic. They're having a party, sharing drinks, and having a great time when the governments are telling us to stay inside and to be fearful of this virus. As much as I respect that, so I captured that moment, and that video is called One Life to Live. The second video I did, I was working on for a long time. COVID made it really difficult to finish it, and the reason it took such a long time. But there's a lot of powerful imagery, and I think cinematography speaking, I captured some really powerful imagery that that hit home to a lot of people. I think that's why the video is doing so well, and in the song. But it's a battle of trying to deal with things in your life that can easily hold you back, that can easily hurt you, but finding a way to turn that into some kind of positive twist, some kind of positive energy. And I think I might have mentioned it earlier, but it's kind of like a metamorphosis for me, and finding a way to turn a negative into a positive. So that duality and then that challenge is something that we all have to deal with. We all have similar problems, but different and unique issues, challenges with relationships, challenges with life, work, health, all these things. and we all tend to think that we're alone in our world, but there's more similarities than differences. But the world has become very divisive, and I mentioned that when we first spoke, and it probably went too deep, too quick. But the world is split into, you know, especially when I was working on the video and the song, but you know, vaccinated, unvaccinated, left and right, vegan and carnivore, you know, Russian and American, or Russian and Ukrainian, or Iran and Iraq. There's so much dividing that we are fighting and destroying ourselves within. And it's almost like a cultural war or a religious war or a class war. But there's so many small little battles that are keeping us separated. And meanwhile, all these things are happening behind our backs. And some people pay attention to it, but some people too talk about things. And the minute they talk about things, people shut them down and try to, because they're talking about things that you don't agree with, they are canceled. So there's so much out there that is breaking us apart as a world, not as a country, not as a culture, but because I think I mentioned this maybe. I look at myself as a human first, not as a New Yorker, not as a hardcore kid or a metal kid, not as a musician or an artist or a father or an American, but as a human. And when you focus more on that and you take your eyes and you look out and you look ahead, you see more of these things in the world. And also things look a little bit more bright, you know? The powers that be like to keep us fighting more amongst ourselves, and it keeps us preoccupied so they can kind of manipulate the world into their agenda. And that goes on both sides. In America, it's Republican and Democrat, but in the world, all the powers, like I said before, they want to keep us preoccupied with things that they can control. And as long as are looking that way, they can take care of things that are going on over here. Sorry, my hands are off camera, but I think you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah. Absolutely. Okay. Can you tell us a little bit more about the beautiful artwork just behind you?
Yeah, it's on my wall.
Yeah.
So I work with my friend, the Crew Eyebrows. He's an artist from New York. Him and I have been friends for years. We tried to work together many times, but we did get it. It just seemed to never work. This record, I sent him some music, I sent him some lyrics, and I was still working on the record. And I gave him some ideas. We went back and forth, and he really came up with the vision that I kind of thought really pulled everything together, from the songs to the title to the lyrics, and really hit the nail on the head.
Most important question. When will we...
Sorry. By the way, I have a few limited edition. By the time they'll probably be gone by the time this comes out, but we did a limited release, 150 versions of the album artwork on a hand numbered, I think they're autographed. I got to open them up, but versions of the album cover. That's really awesome. And it's only available on gold vinyl, which is so fucking awesome. Anyways, I just got them, so I'm pretty happy about that. It's pretty cool.
Okay, because I saw a video of the unboxing, but not inside not the vinyl, just the cover.
Oh, you saw that?
Yeah.
Cool. I'm actually about to make the video of when I pull it out and show the real artwork. It's pretty cool.
Great. Okay, so important question. When will we see you in France and on tour?
So I won't talk about the negative stuff. There's a couple tours that were canceled. Right now, we're working on a new tour for the late summer, but hopefully, and I'm optimistically looking forward to things getting better in Eastern Europe. And when that happens, that tour will happen.
Okay.
So this summer.
Fingers crossed. Okay. And what about the future? A third album, another project with old or new bands? What the next step?
So, I'm still working on new music for BILLYBIO. And that record comes out next week. It's in 2 weeks, the 15th. 10 days,
yeah.
a week and a
10
half.
days, yeah.
And I'm super psyched about that. I'll be working on, there's another single I'm working on right now, another video, and then touring. There is a new Powerful record coming out later this year. It's almost not finished yet, but I'm excited about finishing that and sharing that with everybody also. I have another BILLYBIO release that will come out soon, but you know, I like to talk about things when they're done versus things that I'm working on, because you never know. Like there was, whatever. I'll tell you about it when it's done.
Okay, so see you next time for this.
Perfect.
Okay, so thank you very much for this interview. And so we hope to see you soon on tour, and we will wait with the new album, Leaders and Liars.
I've been coming to France my whole life. Always feel welcome. My French is horrible, but the funniest memory of me speaking French is in Paris. And in every country, I try to speak a little bit of a language. But whenever I speak French in France, there's always someone in the audience, a friend who yells out, "Billy, come on, speak English. We are French. We speak English too. We are smart." And it always makes me laugh. But I will, as horrible as I speak French, I will always try to speak French. I consider France a second home, and I can't wait to come back. I have a couple of close friends. I produce a band from France called Yard of Blondes. You should check out. They're very close friends. But I look forward to coming back. Merci beaucoup. Au revoir.
Merci à toi. À bientôt. Au revoir.
Awesome.
Okay.
Thanks, Helen.
Thank you.